My fellow Americans, what we witnessed today at the White House was nothing short of revolutionary. President Trump formally issued what he called a declaration of economic independence, and the world is reeling. Standing at the podium with hard hat in hand, Trump laid it out plainly. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. He held up a chart showing the massive tariffs other countries charge us versus what we will now charge them, and delivered the knockout line. They charge us, we charge them. It's so simple, yet no previous administration had the courage to enforce it until now. This is economic sovereignty reborn as you hear the waves crashing behind me in the Gulf of America. And as President Trump declares economic independence from global trade parasites, you can declare independence from pain. Canalidine is America's answer to pain relief, 100% drug-free, developed right here in the USA. Just as Trump is ending our reliance on unfair foreign trade, Canalidine ends your reliance on dangerous foreign pharmaceuticals. By activating your body's natural painkillers called endorphins, it provides liberation from pain without side effects or addiction. True freedom, just like America's new economic freedom. Over 1 million Americans trust it, including professional athletes. So experience what economic and physical liberation feels like with Canalidine. Visit trycano.com/NNN for your risk-free 90-day trial. Okay, we've got more direct from the White House. The fake news is working hard to spin the American Liberation Day event. Trump's agenda will not be stopped. Check this out. Here's Tom McCullough, White House correspondent on the ground.
In the Rose Garden. Hey guys, Tom McCullough here with Next News Network. When I say this is crazy amount of press here, we've never seen this much press ever in however many years we've been around. Check it out. I'm gonna put it down. This is a terrible camera angle, but I just want to show you guys how massive this is for the entire world for Trump to make those announcements today and show everybody. And this is only the press that's outside. That doesn't include what's in the briefing room. That doesn't include the people that are still filtering in from the Rose Garden. We're expecting most of the cabinet to come out and do news interviews tonight. So we're just setting up ready for gaggles. And I've never seen this many people at the White House before. It's, again, just, it's an incredible amount of people. And it's all this energy. Trump's bringing America back. We're front and center. The world's talking about every move he does, every move we make, everything. It's just, it's so awesome to see this happen. God bless.
Wow.
Hey guys, Tom
I mean,
McCullough
think about this, okay? This is post Rose Garden. The entire global media has descended on the White House. That's how significant that this is, okay? Now, I've been to the White House before. A number of times. I've never shocked all day long, just trying to find a place to set up so he could present his reports for us. I mean, I'm sure like every single nation is there. Any nation that's going to get hit by a tariff, a reciprocal tariff, is there reporting, trying to get answers. This is absolutely wild. And we've got this. Okay, so Secretary Bessent. And before I show you this, here, check this out, because I just saw this picture of, let's see, here is Bret Baier. There's Tom and Bret Baier. He caught a picture with him today. Oh, yeah. Val Kilmer, so sad. I'm your Huckleberry. There was a picture that was posted here. Where'd it go? I thought he posted it. Maybe it was a different account. Either way, let's just keep going. Here is Bret Baier. This is really important because this is Secretary Bessent's message to the countries hit by reciprocal tariffs. If you retaliate, there will be escalation.
Market react. President in the Rose Garden. Let's get reaction to the president's tariff plan and the progress of his big, beautiful bill going forward. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent joins us now. Thank you for being here.
Right, good to see you.
It was a big day. The president calls it Liberation Day. You know, we showed the markets before, but if you saw the post-market reaction, it was kind of down across the board. You know, people are looking at their 401ks, and they worry about it. What do you say to them tonight?
Brett, I say that what we are doing is we're setting the stage for long-term economic growth, that we were on our way to a financial crisis. I used to teach a history of financial crises, and with that gigantic government spending, it was unsustainable. You look back in 1998, you look back in '07, right before it looked great, everything collapsed. So, I mean, it looked great right before everything collapsed. So we have taken us off that trajectory, and we are putting ourselves back onto a sound trajectory.
You said 10% over 10 years would be $2.5 trillion coming in. You know, you look at this list of all these countries, and there's some policy decisions here. China is at 34%, added to the 20% already, so that's 54% on Chinese goods.
Yes.
Are they going to come back with something big?
Well, we'll see what they do. Is my advice to every country right now is do not retaliate, sit back, take it in, let's see how it goes, because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high watermark.
So, also not in the list, Russia, Belarus, but Ukraine is on the list. Mexico, Canada, not on the list, other than the fentanyl tariffs already there. There's a decision making here.
Well, Russia and Belarus, we don't trade.
President, in the Rose.
So, I mean, sum it up right there. Okay? If you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high watermark. Very simple. The American consumer's buying power puts the rest of the world to shame. So just don't mess around. Okay? You want to F around, you're going to find out. Here's Congressman Greg Steube. When many fail to realize that Trump's reciprocal tariffs are long overdue response to years of unfair trade policies against America. For decades, America has been ripped off by other countries who have repeatedly slapped tariffs on our goods and blocked our products and flooded our markets with theirs. The numbers don't lie. The rest of the world has profited at the expense of American workers and business. President Trump is finally putting America first by taking bold, necessary action that past leaders wouldn't take. And these images, these were posted in the White House press room today. It goes into great detail about what types of tariffs charged to the U.S. and the U.S. discounted reciprocal tariffs. So, these are big moves by President Trump. Here's that picture. There's Tom and Bret Baier outside the White House. That was earlier today. Saw Bret Baier, accidentally called him the wrong name for a second. Very long day. We had a great laugh. Bret Baier. Okay, let's get into the moments in the Rose Garden. Here is the President of the United States. Listen.
Was going in Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. In Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe, right out the gate. Here is more from the president in the Rose Garden today.
Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away over the last 4 years under Biden. I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept.
Let's go. Here's the chart that he held up.
If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less, so how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades, and it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China, charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs, and they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand, and the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. He said, I know that. and he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing?
Wow.
So,
do you guys follow this? He's actually like being nice. He's like, yeah, Sri Lanka, 88%. We can give them the full tax, but we're not going to go all the way because that would completely crush them. Because they only need to go maybe half the way. Do you follow what's happening here? President Trump's being nice. Okay. Let's keep going. Here is President Trump announcing Liberation Day.
my fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. Going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. My fellow Americans,
it was also the day that the White House chose me to do the voiceover to announce Liberation Day on their official White House video. Yeah, go check my X account. You'll see it. It's absolutely amazing. Totally blew my mind today. Let's keep going. We got more. This is President Trump talking about why this is one of the most important days in American history.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before.
You know what pisses me off beyond belief right now? The fact that we've had these tools in our toolbox for so long. For so long. We've had these laws on the books that we could actually implement to restore American manufacturing, open up markets, force other nations to follow and open up their markets for us. But for administration after administration after administration, they all sold us the fuck out. They sold us out. They sold you out. Doesn't that piss you off? It pisses me off beyond belief. I don't like to drop F-bombs on my show, but sometimes you just gotta get the point across. Because it pisses me off to think just how long we have been screwed over by the Bushes, by the Clintons, by the Obamas. Oh my goodness, the Carters, even going back to the Reagans, the Nixons, when they opened up China. And finally, we have a president who is fixing it for you and for me. Oh man, I am so pissed. I am so pissed. But I'm so absolutely overjoyed. Oh man. Okay. Phew. Dude, I don't like dropping F-bombs, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Okay, here is Brian Payne Becker, retired auto worker, 25-year UAW member. Let's listen what he had to say in the Rose Garden with President Trump.
Long. Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the Metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
I mean, look at this. This is a union guy at the White House praising President Trump for this action. He knows exactly what's going to happen. All those plants are going to come back to life. The parking lots are going to be filled with employees' vehicles going in to manufacture new products made in America, shipping them all over the world. I mean, what happened during the last administration? Yeah, it was robbery. But that was just like the tip of the iceberg for the theft that we have endured, because this has been going on for decades, generations even. Oh man. Let's keep going. I'm so happy here. Here's more. Yeah, look, here's President Trump. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers. Here it is.
On our products and create. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers on other countries, while those nations placed massive tariffs on our products and created.
Who the hell was doing this? Who was writing these laws? Who was profiting off of this lunacy? Like, that's where we have to get to the bottom of. We have to investigate. We got to ask these questions. Who started this stuff? Who's the moron who thought this was a good idea to begin with? Slashing our trade barriers.
Outrageous non-monetary barriers. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers on other countries, while those nations placed massive tariffs on our products and created outrageous non-monetary barriers to decimate our industries. And in many cases, the non-monetary barriers were worse than the monetary ones. They manipulated their currencies, subsidized their exports, stole our intellectual property, imposed exorbitant VAT taxes to disadvantage our products, adopted unfair rules and technical standards, and created filthy pollution havens. They were absolutely filthy, but they always came to us and they said, we're violating, we should pay for it. It's all detailed in a very big report by the U.S. Trade Representative on Foreign Trade Barriers, and I'll just hold it up for you. It's available, and you don't have to pay too much. As I understand it, you'll pay nothing. It's a lot of work for something, actually, because it's a special book. It's very, frankly, it's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years. This all happened with no response from the United States of America, none whatsoever. But those days are over. Let me offer just a few examples of the vicious attacks our workers have faced for so many years. The United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that. Likewise, until today, the United States has for decades charged a 2.5 tariff. Think of that, 2.5% on foreign-made automobiles. The European Union charges us more than 10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations. As a result of these colossal trade barriers, 81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. For decades, the United
I want to know who's behind it. Whose great idea was it? At least we have a great idea from a president who's fixing it all. Oh, this is probably one of my favorite moments of the entire day in the Rose Garden.
The wealthiest from 1789 to 1913. We were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, that's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. From
so much is going to change, folks. So much is going to change. The External Revenue Service is going to go to full effect. We're going to get rid of the income tax and the IRS. It's going to be the greatest time in American history. The golden age is truly here. So, Trump dropped a history lesson today, and it left the media completely stunned. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, the wealthiest we've ever been. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they gave us the income tax. Let that sink in. We traded national prosperity for IRS confiscation and globalist control. But today that system crumbles. Retired UAW worker Brian Painbacker put it perfectly. I watched plant after plant close in Detroit. President Trump's policies are going to bring product back to those plants. From farmers facing 300% Canadian dairy tariffs to ranchers blocked by Australian beef bans. Trump is finally defending the American producer. This is more than policy. It's economic rebirth. So here's my question. Will historians mark April 2nd, 2025 as the day America reclaimed its economic destiny? Who needs historians when you and me are writing history, right? Sound off below. And make sure you grab your exclusive Next News gear from our merch shop. Support the network. Link down below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.